This man cannot remain in power.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Rishi Sunak, who is the Chancellor of the Exchequer of the government. He is the Chancellor and he is the right-hand man of Boris Johnson. And along with Boris Johnson, he is totally incompetent. He is a millionaire and is totally out of touch from reality. And he really doesn't know how hard an average British person is living at the moment, especially with the high taxes, cost of living, inflation, and now with these energy prices which have come into effect as of today. And things are not looking good for the UK household or the UK people, and he is not helping at all. He is completely out of touch, completely out of reality. And I'm going to show you a series of clips which will show you how incompetent this guy is. He really does not have a clue, and I had to make this video to show you guys how clueless he is. So without further ado, let's start, shall we?
Who on paper has a good job and what's considered a good salary, but unfortunately the rising costs of everything, especially energy, have now put an intense strain on my ability to provide for my children. The significant increase in our energy bill has meant that we don't have the boiler on. The lights are always off unless absolutely necessary, and when it's cold we wear jumpers and coats, and sometimes you can see our breaths when we breathe. Now, despite working a full-time job, I'm having to find ways to bridge the gap. I've started cleaning houses, and I spend every evening riding a bike, delivering for Uber Eats. I've managed to cut my grocery shop down to just £15 a week for an adult and 2 children, and I often go without myself to make sure the kids get what they need and they're fed. A £150 grant towards energy bills, which have risen by an average of £2,000 a year, just isn't going to cut it. I've just about been able to balance things up until this point, but I'm now facing paying out more each month than I'm making. What are you going to do to address the soaring cost of energy? And if you're not doing anything, please tell me what else you suggest I can be doing to help myself.
Well, Hazel, thanks for your question. And look, I can't imagine how difficult your job is, right? I've got 2 kids as well, and I, have, obviously my wife and other helped with us, so enormous admiration for what you're doing, and it sounds like you're working your socks off to look after them, so tribute to you. On energy bills in particular, you're right, they are going up, and we have something called the energy price cap, which has protected people's bills from going up, but in April it will go up, so on average,
and October again.
Well, first of all, it's going to go up in April, that's what we know, and it goes up on average from about £1,300 to £2,000, and that's going to affect almost everybody.
So you can see by the caller, especially how Rishi Sunak was squirming. She is basically an average person living in UK, trying to make ends meet, trying to feed her children, and she's working, and even though she's working 2 jobs, she's still struggling to feed her children and to pay for the bills. And that's pretty much the average how things are in Britain, and a lot of people are living paycheck by paycheck. They don't have huge amounts of savings, and a lot of people have lost a lot of their savings because of the pandemic. And he is not helping at all. He says that he's also got 2 children, but he's a millionaire, his wife is a billionaire. When you're a kid and you're growing up in a millionaire's household or you're living in a poor household, there is a huge difference. His kids are not going to be affected, and not at all. So for him to say I've also got 2 kids, doesn't make any sense. And the fact that he's acknowledging that the prices are going to go up in April, which they have, and they're also going to go up in October as well. So people are still going to have to save up to pay for the electricity bills, and people just don't have that money lying around. And he's also been increasing the taxes as well. He's not been doing anything to help the poor people. While these rich companies, these gas companies, are making billions in profit, he should be targeting them, not the average person and the average poor person in UK. It's absolutely ridiculous how he can get away with it.
Have not accounted for the full impacts of the war in Ukraine. And we should be prepared for the economy and public finances to worsen potentially significantly. and the cost of borrowing is continuing to rise. In the next financial year, we are forecast to spend £83 billion on debt interest.
So you see, he's even admitted what a shambles the UK economy is. But at the end of the day, we are in this place because of him. It's because of his policies, all of this money that he's been borrowing, all of these ridiculous foreign policies that him and his mate Boris have been doing. They've put all of these ridiculous sanctions on Russia, which are shooting themselves in the foot. They have literally kicked out all Chinese investments from UK, kicked out Huawei, pissed off the Chinese with their ridiculous policies, anti-Chinese policies, and also Brexit as well. I mean, him and Boris have pretty much engineered Brexit. So all of this stuff, and also wasting so much money on the pandemic. They wasted 40 billion on this ridiculous track and trace program which doesn't even work. So him and Boris have pretty much wasted a lot of money over the years. They've borrowed a lot of money. They've done all of these money printing as well. So he has put the economy down to himself. This is all down to himself. He was the Chancellor when all of this happened. So he can't turn around and say, oh, we're in some severe trouble now. He's the one that put us into all of this trouble. He's the one that needs to be responsible for it. He should stand up and say, yeah, all of my decisions, all of my policies, as well as my mate Boris, we're the ones that put you in this spot. I have been making videos like in the past of all of these ridiculous policies that Britain has been doing, he's been doing, and everything has led up to this, everything. So he needs to stand up and take responsibility why we're in such dire straits at the moment.
We are still standing on a personal finance precipice in the UK. The Chancellor is now the only person who can pull us back from that. And I don't think what we saw today is enough to do it. The best way to think of this is by October, based on current estimates, it's likely that a typical household's energy bills will be £1,300 higher than at the same point last October. There is nothing close in this budget to covering that amount of money. And we need to remember that energy bills are regressive. The richest don't pay that much more than the poorest. They're pretty much flat. It's almost a poll tax of energy bills. So that 1,300 quid hike is hitting everybody. And the poorest in society, when we remember that food prices and fuel prices and council tax and water bills and broadband and mobile phones are all going up as well, never mind that £1,300. The measures that we're seeing today, which even in the best case scenario, even if you couple it with the 150 quid council tax rebate the Chancellor announced a couple of months ago, and the £200 loan not loan to help with energy he also announced, even at the top end is about 650 quid of help. Whereas on energy bills alone, you're talking a £1,300 rise. We are moving to many people on low incomes now to a heating the human, not heating the home situation, which is pretty hard to hear. And of course, insulation is great if you can afford it. Adding extra insulation.
What does that mean? Heating the human, not heating the home? I'm just not clear.
Well, don't turn your central heating on. Sit in a sleeping bag. And this is not advice. This is the tangible situation people are putting themselves in. Whether you'll have to get an electric blanket to heat you and leave the house to be cold. That is a tactic I'm seeing many people talking about doing. They will heat the individual so that the whole house is cold, but you try and keep yourself warm within it.
So this guy is quite famous for giving really good advice to British people, money-saving advice. And even he's stumped to give it any advice. And he doesn't know what advice he can give anymore, except people need to walk around with blankets in their home and not have any heating on, because he knows that the Chancellor has completely messed this up. Completely. Even he doesn't have any advice to give to any British people at all. And it's just going to get worse.
It's been reported that you've got family links to Russia, that your wife apparently has a stake in the Indian IT consultancy firm Infosys. They operate in Moscow. They have an office there. They have a delivery office there. They've got a connection to the Alpha Bank in Moscow. Are you giving advice to others that you're not following in your own home?
That's not. I'm an elected politician, and I'm here to talk to you about what I'm responsible for. My wife is not.
She is not, but equally, if you know, as a country, we are asking taxpayers to fund the UK's support for Ukraine. We're asking people in the UK to give their homes up to Ukrainian refugees, whereas it appears your family potentially could be benefiting from Putin's regime.
No, I don't think that's the case. And as I said, the operations of all companies are up to them. We've put in place significant sanctions, and all the companies that we are responsible for are following those, as they rightly should, sending a very strong message to Putin's aggression.
Do you know if Infosys is?
I have absolutely no idea, because I have nothing to do with that company.
So can you see him squirming when the anchor was asking him about his wife and her links with Infosys? Infosys is one of the largest IT companies in the world, and it's owned by his wife's father. He's the actual founder, and she's got shares in that company, and she is basically got billions because of it. And Infosys is still carry on working in Russia, while at the same time he's sanctioning Russia, asking all the businesses, British businesses, to cut links with Russia, get out of Russia. And in the same time, his wife is basically making money in Russia, and he's benefiting as well, because if your wife is making money in Russia, you as a family are benefiting, because he's also got, 5 or 6 properties, millions and millions of pounds of properties all over the world, in UK, in America, and he's benefiting from it. His wife is benefiting from it. His children are benefiting from it. So obviously he is benefiting, and for him to say it's got nothing to do with me, he's a liar. He's got all of these properties, all of these houses, and he's just out of touch and out of reality completely. And look at what this lady says. Rishi Sunak is out of touch with normal people. Rachel Reeves takes aim after mini budget. And millionaire Chancellor Rishi Sunak's fleet of cars revealed. He's got about 5 or 6 cars. Amazing, top of the range cars. He's got in his property, he has pools, he has gyms, he has a tennis court. So this guy's rich beyond belief. But not only is he rich, his wife is a billionaire as well. And he's reaping the benefits while he's telling all of the UK people to cut links with Russia. He's happily still having those links with Russia. And it's just double standards, absolutely double standards. Somebody needs to kick him out.
That the cost in filling up my Kia Picanto has gone up from £30 to £54 in the time I've owned it. Mr. Sunak, did you face a similar fuel hike in the time you've owned your Rio?
How long have you owned your car?
About 3 years.
Oh, mine I think is probably older than that.
Is it a Picanto? Is it a Rio?
No, actually,
Picanto?
we have a Golf.
Okay.
So,
but you fill up other people's cars now?
Yes, actually, I was an employee at Sainsbury's.
I think people are stupid.
No, I think people will see that.
I think people aren't going to see through this.
So you got this funny story where this young lady has basically caught him lying. So he's lying to her and lying to the British public. In that photo, you can see him putting petrol in an average family car. And it's a very, very cheap car. And he's showing that he's basically poor like everybody else, and he drives a very cheap car. But it's not the case. That car he borrowed from a Sainsbury's employee for a photo op, and it's not even his car, he just did it for the photo. And he says he drives a Golf, but he doesn't drive a Golf. He drives a lot of luxury cars, including a top-of-the-range Range Rover and a top-of-the-range Lexus. And so he's lying to everyone, lying to the British public, lying to that woman, and lying to the rest of us. And in this final clip, I'm going to show you how he doesn't even know what a loan is. He's basically given a loan to the British public, which they have to pay back. So he says he's helping the British public with the energy bills, but it's not really any help at all. It's basically a loan which you have to pay back. And this is him cringing in front of the young lady who's basically questioning him about it. And he doesn't even know what a loan is. He's basically going to and fro, trying to explain that it's not a loan when it is a loan. You just got to see this clip, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And how the hell did this guy become a chancellor if he doesn't even know what a basic loan is? This guy is a fraud, he's a liar, and he's also utterly incompetent at his job.
They're in conversations right now about
There's no opt-out to this £200 heat now, pay later scheme, is there?
that. No.
So people who are already in fuel debt, who are on prepayment meters because of that debt, are being asked to take on another £200 of debt from you,
No,
Chancellor.
actually, I think it's wrong to describe it that way, and I think it's also, I'd say, gently, it's wrong to worry people that that's what's happening, because it's clearly not what's happening. Actually,
Is it money
it's
you're
not.
giving them that they owe you?
It's not debt. Trying to do it all in one go is tougher. So instead of having to come up with £200 all in one go, let's spread that cost over 5 years so that your family finances can come up with £40 a year over 5 years rather than £200 all in one go. That's what it is, and I think that is the right thing to do to help exactly those people for whom it will make a difference. And given the choice of having to find £200 all in one go, if you're really struggling for,
will not have to adjust. It's a little bit disingenuous to say that we all have to adjust. Rishi Sunak, who's married to a woman who's...
Instead of having to come up with £200 all in one go, let's spread that cost over 5 years so that your family finances can come up with £40 a year over 5 years rather than £200 all in one go. That's what it is, and I think that is the right thing to do to help exactly those people for whom it will make a difference. And given the choice of having to find £200 all in one go, if you're really struggling for things, faced with the choice of having to do that or saying just come up with £40 a year for 5 years, I think that will really help them. It was something that was actually requested by people like the Citizens Advice Bureau from them to adjust to it. So describing it as alone is wrong. It is spreading the impact of a price increase over 5 years rather than having to deal with it all in one go at the beginning. And I think that is a good thing that will help people, and particularly those people on lower incomes.
If I give you money and then it's expected to be paid back, it's a loan.
The money
You're asking it
is,
to be paid back.
That's because of the mechanism.
At a time in the future.
The
That's a loan,
mechanism of how. So what we're doing is saying you don't have to come up with £200 this year because that's a lot extra to deal with. Instead,
it's £40 next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year.
Well, if you're talking about the people that you were who are really struggling to make ends meet, do you think they'll be better off having to come up with £200 in one go or £40 a year over 5 years?
I think they'll be better off with a grant, Chancellor.
Well, that's a different question, and that gets back to our point on what's an acceptable amount of borrowing. And that's a choice, right? I have a view.
Your choice, it's not theirs. They don't get to opt out of this.
And it's because I think it will help them.
You're forcing them something that you think will be good for them, and they might disagree, but they have to take it anyway.
No, I'm not.
That's not helpful, Chancellor.
No, not. What I'm doing is saying, actually, rather than come up with £200 in one go, particularly if you're someone who is struggling to...
So can you see how he's squirming, trying to squirm out of his way, and he doesn't even know what a loan is when he completely is a loan. So he's basically forcing the British public to take £200 and then forcing them to pay back. What if you don't want it? You can't say no, you're just forced to take it. And it's completely ridiculous. All of his policies are complete ridiculousness. He's just doing it to help all the companies. It's all about making money. It's all about making profit. So the rich people and the capitalists are there. They are not being targeted. They will make more money, and it's always the poor or the middle class that will get hurt. And it's the poor and the middle class that are targeted, and they're the ones that will suffer. And this is why this guy has to go, and he has to go as soon as possible.
When it's useful. But could I tell him that someone who's been in this house since 1979, he's the most incompetent Chancellor I've ever seen.
That's all for today, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can always buy me a coffee or join my Patreon if you want to support me some more. So I'm going to end this video now, and I look forward to reading your comments. I love reading your comments, by the way. So I'll see you soon. Take care for now.